Hello, I'm Chris Athanas. I'm a KMP developer. Tech support's coming out Tuesday for that bad boy to close up. Today I'm going to be going through three different videos because I talk about these industrial sourced software development production line issues, and a lot of people are like, "What are you talking about? What is it?" Well, it comes from the Industrial Revolution. We had this thing happen to our society that changed us from basically everybody being on a farm, and I'm jack of all trades as well. You have to learn all the different things you have to do on the farm. So you're like learning all these different things all the time. And then we went through a industrial revolution where everyone got standardized on one job. You do one job all day long. You do is one job. It's very specialization. And through that process, we got this thing about we had to mathematically calculate production levels. So it completely dehumanized the whole process. And the people who are in charge of the finances are the same people who hire the specialists, right, to do the one little job, right? And so all of our practices up until software development have been this. People have just been this production mindset. So all the MBAs, all the finance people are like, if they've been in other industries, they come to software development and they expect it to be the same, and it's not the same. Right, and then we've had all these things come through, like Agile and all this stuff, trying to like fix this problem of trying to make knowledge work production quality. It's like a production line. A production line. It's not a production line. It can't be a production line. It will never be a production line. But we keep coming up with this problem. So where did this idea come from? Let's listen to History 102. Great channel. Whether you believe his stuff or not, or like his stuff or not, he does cite his sources, so you can go look into the stuff he looked at, and if you want to interpret it differently, that's fine. But I have looked into this stuff. I've been living in this system for a long time, and this kind of tracks for me. So let's go.
So I am going to explain this in the strangest way possible, where in the philosophy of magic, which is a real thing that stems back to the Middle Ages in the ancient world, it's not Harry Potter. In the legitimate philosophy of magic, there is the magic of kings and the magic of priests. And the magic of priests exists to make you more moral and closer to God, and the magic of kings exists to make you more powerful. And the way I use this frame in history, where the rise of a religion is equivalent to the magic of priests, where you look at Christianity or Islam or Buddhism, they didn't give humanity this quantum leap in actual physical power. They gave it so that humanity could cooperate more easily and had a better value structure and that sort of thing. The Industrial Revolution's not that. The Industrial Revolution is the magic of kings, where, imagine that. That was normal in the pre-industrial world, and now village for 2,000 years straight. Years old. What that means is that my family were probably fishermen in possibly the same village.
Sorry, let me fix this. Hold on. So I don't know what happened there. We're going to just continue on.
And that sort of thing. The Industrial Revolution's not that. The Industrial Revolution is the magic of kings, where humans remained the same crazy monkeys, but you gave these crazy monkeys the power of gods. And the Industrial Revolution, it's possibly the most important event in history. There's like 5 things that are competing in my mind to be the most important event in history. The Industrial Revolution is competing for the top slot because it completely changed the calculus in a way that's difficult for people to understand, where there's a handful of authors who made what I think were reasonable calculations, like Malthus or Karl Marx or Carlyle. These are all thinkers from the early 19th century who wrote books that made sense. And then the Industrial Revolution just steamrolled them. And that's an interesting way to start because it shows that the Industrial Revolution was such a profound change in the assumptions of life that even the brightest minds from the pre-industrial world could not comprehend what was about to hit them. Where for the pre-industrial world...
Yeah, that's the thing. This totally... we're still dealing with issues around this. And one of the things we're dealing with is the issue of wanting to make people into machines, right? The financial, mercantile people, they love the machines, they love the production, they love all that stuff. It blew everything away, but they want to make the whole thing into machines, and that's what we as adventure-driven developers, this is what we're bumping up against.
World, you lived a life comparable to your great-grandpa. As an example, my last name's Lynch. Lynch is Gaelic for Olenshun, and that's son of a fisherman. And I know my ancestors in Ireland, before they came over to America in the 19th century, they were fishermen. Irish last names are 2,000 years old. What that means is that my family were probably fishermen in possibly the same village for 2,000 years straight. Imagine that. That was normal in the pre-industrial world. And now my family, I live in Texas, but my family's from Pennsylvania in the Northeast. My mom's from Nebraska. Every generation, my family worked a different job. That's post-industrial. This technology we're talking on, no one had Zoom meetings before COVID. And so this speed of change.
Well, I mean, I did, but most people didn't. True. I have been doing the telecommunicating for a while. I started getting getting hooked up online in computers back in the 80s before people even knew what that was, even had any clue about any of that stuff. Uh, yeah, so I've been on this. I've been kind of getting accustomed to this technology, but I also know that most people around me have no. They're still just new. It's like new to them, and honestly, academia, there's no the culture, society just cannot keep up with the changes that have been thrown at them, and the magicians who have been employing their skills with through these devices, right? And we're dealing with that too.
It's as if the wizards of the West kept on discovering more and more powerful magic every generation,
Yeah.
and the world became this game of guessing what new kind of magic people would develop. And now we've just developed powerful genies that can replicate the human mind.
Correct.
And that those genies,
well, simulate, not replicate. I know he's not a technical guy. He's just looking at the hype. He'll eventually figure out, it was just a predictive thing. It's not really an intelligence anywhere at all. It's just very clever.
they're AI. And the Industrial Revolution it's fascinating. And if you went back to the time period when it was happening in the mid-19th century, people didn't know what was happening, and they didn't understand the depth of it. Where if you talk to philosophers like, as I said before, Malthus or Carlyle or Karl Marx, they passively knew factories are getting bigger, machines are getting more powerful, but they had no comprehension that they were a lifetime away from the atom bomb being invented, infinite prosperity for everyone. And I'm glad I'm making this video.
Well, I mean, potential infinite prosperity, right? But that starts to touch on other issues about class and who gets to be on top, who gets to be on charge, calling the shots, and even if that's a lot, who's the ultimate big. So our base nature, our monkey nature, it cannot be pushed down. There's always going to be some brute who wants to get on top, and somebody else coming up behind them trying to knock it off. I don't know how we get away from that. Germany may have had a good idea before World War I when they had all these little city states instead of France having just one big state. So I don't know. This is a continuously going historical issue, and software development is definitely part of this whole thing for sure, 100%.
Video now because our narrative on the Industrial Revolution has changed markedly in just the last 10 years. Because again, to pull on the philosophy of magic, for every reaction is a counter-reaction. And so when we look at the great advances of the Industrial Revolution, you find that there was this huge increase in prosperity, collapse in diseases, increase in the world's population, positive things. But then we didn't see the negative. And I am going to do something I haven't seen done before in combining both the positives of the Industrial Revolution with the negatives that the Unabomber talks about. Because the Unabomber, I think, actually has a very cogent and intelligent criticism of industrial civilization,
For sure.
something that people at the time viewed the Unabomber as a complete madman, but in just the last 5 years...
Well, unless you had read his stuff and what he was talking about and were maybe familiar with some of the things that were going on, like I was intimately familiar with how these technologies work since I was a little kid. Right? And I've been building and writing computer software for a while. I saw the direction people were taking it, especially when I saw Eliza, this first, it was like a therapist thing where kind of we echo your words back. People really thought, and you can look up the Eliza effect. People really thought that was a smart person behind the computer because of all the marketing hype that they push these computers to be these amazing magical creatures when it's really people. It's really clever, just the cleverness of people that does all this stuff. It's not the machines doing it. The machines are an expression of the magicians who are using taste, using sleight of hand, using conundrums of thought patterns and how people put their attention. All of that stuff combining sex with product marketing, which we're going to get into with Bernays. All these things are being used at the same time. Software development is just one of the latest platforms to express these things, but these are all direct intentions of human beings. These magicians, he's referring to.
Years, a lot of the criticisms that we thought were ridiculous have turned out to be true. And I think the time since COVID is a pivotal historic moment because we start seeing the cost that was paid for by the Industrial Revolution in the collapse of our society. And a lot of the wisest critics of the last century, like C.S. Lewis or Amaury de Riencourt or Spengler, they could sense what the issues with the Industrial Revolution were because they saw the world wars and they saw the mass bureaucracy.
Well, this is all contained in the World War I, World War II. It's all contained in there. All the same strategies. They were very, very coarse, very blunt, and very transparent, really. And now it's not so much. Now, 50 years from now, the people in 50 years, they will look back and see, oh, wow, how did you guys fall for that stuff? As the same way we look back on the World War One and World War Two, we can look at that propaganda. It's just really chintzy and sloppily done. But for them at the time, it was cutting edge. It was like our social media is now. People, it was the same level of effect they had, but it started wearing off because there was new technologies, new wizards, new masters of the mind, the government, which means control the mind. So software is not just software. Software is all this other stuff too. And the people involved with it, you better believe they are on their own adventure. And one of the biggest things people want to do is control other people. Holy crap. It's like obsession. Some of these people are obsessed. And that's what we're dealing with.
Of society. But as I said, I think the most important lesson of the 21st century is that we really need to learn the lessons we didn't learn in the 20th century.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe first we could start by Steelmanning the Unabomber's critiques, or where should we start?
So, Steelman says that am I arguing for or against the Unabomber?
For.
Okay, great. You guys should watch my video on said topic. But what the Unabomber said is that industrial civilization promotes over-socialization,
right?
Which means
the whole internet, all these chat rooms is pure over-socialization. This is one of the things I had a hard time when I first read it. I was like, what is he talking about? But once I kind of linked it in that, it's this message board online stuff. People are totally anonymous. You don't even know who this is. You don't know who it is. And I ran my own test, as anyone does, who becomes aware of these things and has a little bit of wizarding skills.
That the industrial world, an author, one of my favorite history authors.
Instead of having a Dunbar's number of 150 people we actually know, it's all this anonymous, pseudo-social, parasocial environment that most people are living in now. And this has not been tried before. That everybody that's around us is anonymous. This is new. It's brand new. We are not doing well with it. That's what. Just by the way, so it's probably some of the technology is going to come along to solve it, or it's going to fall over and go back a notch.
Authors. If anyone wants to read a history book as a normal person that explains history the best, it's The Invention of Yesterday by Tamim Ansari. And Tamim Ansari has this interesting metaphor that industrial civilization is this machine, and societies have to develop a negotiation with the machine to get infinite wealth. And industrialization is profoundly cultural, where there are two waves of industrialization. The first wave is British, the second wave is Japanese. In the first wave, your cultural similarity to Britain determined how much you industrialized, and your cultural similarity to Japan in the second wave determined how much you industrialized. So first wave of industrialization, the Americans and the Germans really close to the British, they industrialized really hard. The Spanish and the Russians.
There's the big iron, big steam engines, all that kind of first wave stuff. I was just technology of World War One, which was actually pretty high tech. Like you look at that, there's the YouTube channel called Our Own Devices, and he goes through all the old World War One tech. It's pretty advanced. Like what they had back then is like, damn. And he kind of focuses a little bit more on Canadian stuff for some reason. Like it's Canadian, but anyway, I'm half Canadian. So.
Less so, the Africans not at all. In the second wave, the countries close to Japan, like Korea and China, industrialized. Those further away, like Thailand, Indonesia, less so. The reason I bring this up is that industrialization is, at its foremost, a cultural technology, in that certain societies have cultures that allow them to industrialize, because industrialization, it's how well you can work with a systematized system, where the best example of this is the school system. The school system, everyone does the same classes they don't care about. You're forced to wake up early, be sleep deprived, work long hours, sit at your desk. The school system, its purpose is not to teach you stuff, because no one remembers anything they learned in school past age 12.
True.
The purpose of the school system is to make sure you're a good wagee, because the fact
it's an indoctrination system to set you to set into this system that so you can be somewhat useful, because your parents weren't smart enough to not to send you. They didn't know good enough to not to send you to public school, because you're set up to do this. You're set up to be a wagee. You're expected that you're going to be doing that and stuff. Now, I went to public school, but for some reason I got something inside me that made me like I did not want to do well in that whole thing. Very much like Ken Thompson. Like I was just like, no, but I'm gonna use this system for my benefit and get out of it what I need, and I'm not trying to like be the winner of that.
System, everyone shows up at the same time, you do what your boss tells you to do, you sit at a desk for 9 hours, 10 hours, whatever. This is at odds with most of human nature. For most people in history, they didn't have an employer. Correct. They worked for their father, or they had their own private business. In 1920, 90% of Americans worked for themselves or small businesses. In 1990, 90% of Americans were employees. And so what this signifies is that the Industrial Revolution requires a tremendous
all that competition got suckered away, right? So most people are down here they're set up and designed. We all are set up and designed to be down in these things. So I did a professional project, and I'm a junior mid-level, then I'm a senior low read roles, and I'm tunnels of fake agile doom, and the tar pits are. We're all in these kinds of things working for other people, right? And the whole thing of adventure-driven development is we're going back to a time when mom and pop shops were had, and you can get up to the mountain. You can find an entrance in for whatever level thing you want to get into, right? It's possible, but only if you go looking and you're not stuck down in here or again a silver horde. Silver horde's not so bad, but what I'm talking about is like to really get you juiced up when you're going after your stuff, not somebody else's insect problem. You're going after a dragon. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This is the things I'm talking about. The adventure-driven development is going back to before we had 90% of the people working as employees. I mean, the people that can't just deal with that. We're just like not meant for it. We're not designed for it. It's new. It's not really for our taste. And we're willing to deal with this going up this mountain. Yeah, it's now the mountain is a little shallower now. It didn't used to be. It's now shallower than it has been in a while.
Tremendous amount of standardization across people, across broad systems. And an example of this is that pre-World War II, if you read histories of America, America's not treated as a single country. They'll say the Yankees are like this, the Southerners are like this, the Germans are like this. But with the Industrial Revolution, we had to create standardization across America because all the Walmart employees across the country had to go to the job at the same time and do the same system, because this giant system that is Walmart can only work if everyone cooperates across it uniformly.
Right. He's using just Walmart as a place and example for and all of corporate America and any business that models itself after those kinds of practices, which is all industrial stuff. The big thing about the industrial stuff is it's standardized, right? So you have standardized employees, right? And you just do the thing that they told you what to do, which is not anything near your capability, not anywhere near your capability, but you are conditioned to think that that's all you are capable of doing, and shut up and just clock in and clock out, please.
Walmart and Costco are in strategic levels incredibly impressive businesses. You guys should study the industrial strategy of Walmart and Costco because they're just this is a pet peeve of mine. These companies are so good at getting people to cooperate and about making things cheap that I find Walmart, Amazon, Costco just insanely impressive. That notwithstanding, said impressiveness is bought at the quality of life for the people involved. And
Right, and that's the whole thing with this adventure-driven developments for people that still would like to do computer stuff, and they're down here and they've suffered, and they're like, this is what we're doing down here. This is fake agile projects, doom, tunnels of fake agile doom, and the death marches of shrinking market shares, or a dungeon grind, where you're just doing feature factory stuff for somebody else's crazy idea. For people that have gone through this stuff and they're like still want to do it, and they might have heard about somehow that there's a cave opening up here that they want to go look for, and that's what this is about.
Humans are by nature crazy monkeys, and people don't like the standardization. And what the Unabomber said is that this came at the cost of the human soul.
Right. So people who have souls, who are stuck in these things, and they're just dying for just give me a hint how to get out of here. And that it is pieced. You can kind of piece it together. It's like, oh, self-help, start your own business. Like, no, there's a path through it, but you have to have. It's mostly this attitude. It's not give me the path out. It's what attitude do I need to have? How do I have to frame this problem so I can at least have a chance to win somehow.
Where back in a pre-industrial society, you wake up, you work with.
Oh, sorry. My point was, people that have souls still. Some people who don't have souls, they're just like, oh, I don't really want to. I don't care about that. I just want to collect my paycheck, and if I have to be out of work and retool it in 6 months, I'm fine with that. I'll just do whatever, and as long as it pays well, and I can. If it doesn't, I'll find something else that does. Like those kind of people, that's not for them. Like they're okay with just the 9 to 5 kind of deal. But for people that have a soul and they have something inside that really wants to get out, and they're just like, they came here for they're on Earth for a different purpose, and one of them they want to try something up here. They have their eye when they first started doing these tutorials. And person was like, wow, I can do all this stuff. It's super fun. And then like get into this stuff, it's like not fun. But this is a way to make it fun again, because you're going after your thing, right? You're doing a Ken Thompson, man. You're going after. Unix was a side project. He was like a side. It was like a subtask in his glorious quest for Space Trek and Space War and chess and have a computer beat the best chess player. What do you mean? I thought you wanted to do an operation. No, that was just to get me up to this other thing. What? He's an adventurer, right?
Bomber said is that this came at the cost of the human soul, where back in a pre-industrial society, you wake up, you work with your family, you go to your job when you want, and then your community and family supplies everything. Your community and family, it's your insurance, it's your military protection, it's your healthcare system, it's your social life, and this is how humans evolved. Humans evolved to have intact communities, families, religion, and these
all this depression, anxiety stuff. Oh no, just take a pill. Yeah, that's what was missing. A pill. Some sort of drug to calm you down a little bit. Some sort of like, what is it called? Anesthetic. A mild anesthetic. So now you're dizzy, and you don't really care as much because you're kind of fucked up. You're kind of fucked up. So you're anxious and you're depressed, and they're saying, oh, this is the solution. Psychiatrists, look, we voted on the DSM, we voted on all this stuff here, and we said that you have anxiety and depression. Here's a pill. Now shut up. And I was like, I don't think this is working. Well, that's your problem. You're broken. So you're broken. It's not that as a human being, for all the way up until the last, I don't know, 50 years or so, we've been trying to do this intact communities, families, people like social Dunbar's number, people that we know and for a long period of time. That's how we've kind of been living. But now we're no, everyone's atomized. You don't know your neighbor. Here's a pill.
These are the things from studies over the last 30 years we've consistently found make people the happiest. And so what industrial civilization does is it turns humans into cogs.
Right.
And
that's what these guys want. So that's what these guys down here in the tunnels of fake ads are doing with their drum march, the death march. Can you cut a couple points off? Could you cut a couple points off that ticket? Because you said 4. Could you do 2? Or is that a Fibonacci number? I don't know. Huh? That's what these people, they want to put you in a cog. And some people are okay with that. They're okay with grinding away. Doing a leak code to get into Google and doing a dungeon grind to your burn down slug feature factory. They don't mind. They think they're winning. Yay. But for some of us, it's like, that's not enough. That's not going to do it for us. And this, I'm talking about software developers on this channel, but this is for like anything. Anything you see, the cave opening that's going to give you that spark, that light that makes your soul kind of, you open up and go, hey, maybe we should go try that. Maybe we can figure that out somehow. Can we get in that thing somehow? Those people who I'm talking to, not I just want a drop-in replacement for my agile process that's better. Could you do it? Could you give me a SAFE process? SAFE? Could you just drop it in for me and just make all my developers come back to life and stop quitting after a year?
It gives them incredible wealth in exchange for this. But then the term the Unabomber invented is called over-socialization. Over-socialization is the
being told over-socialization is being told that your anxiety and depression is cured with a pill. Oh, not that one. Well, here's another one. Or not that one. Here's another one. Not that one. Here's another one. Or let's try 3 or 4. Let's try 2 and 1 and 3 and 6 and 8. And by the end of that, you'll be like, oh, yeah, I feel great. Everything's awesome. Don't know your neighbors, don't know your whatever, you know all kinds of people online. That's winning. That's the answer.
Destruction of what makes us human to fit into the machine better. And Tamim Ansari said it's a negotiation between the machine and people. Different societies often don't realize how much they give the machine. And so when you look at American culture, our entire society is developed about how to increase industrial productivity. And what the Unabomber said is that leftism is a derivation of resentment against over-socialization, where the left is obsessed with power. And leftist societies only really took over in industrialized societies. Because let's say you're a person, you work at an anonymous job where your boss doesn't care about you, you live in a box, you don't know your neighbors, you don't have anything you really believe in, and you feel completely powerless, where you can't even...
Yes, that's what we've been doing. That's what the industrialization that gave us all this wonderful wealth and everything, all these products from everywhere. This is what it took away.
Plant a tree in your house because the HOA doesn't like that. And so it creates this profound resentment. And look at leftism. Leftism is a power fantasy where mankind is a god capable of changing everything. We control reality. And the left always leads to having a dictator with complete power. And the left never changes their strategy because leftists secretly want to be the dictator subconsciously. So they establish a system where a dictatorship has total power. And they don't change it because the purpose is the power fantasy. And
they want the power back. I want to get control of my life back. They want to control. If you're anonymized, you don't know other people, you're drugged up, you're told you have nothing to believe in, you don't know anybody. Of course. Yes, you're going to want to do. What else left is there? Some power over. Can I get some power out of this thing? So I get it. I don't know if it's a leftist thing. I don't even want to put that label on. It's a human thing. It's like, hey, if you're going to make me into a cob, I got to have some say in this whole thing. It's like, no, just grind away. Just lead to your elite code grinding.
Power is the power fantasy. And you look at the left. The left wants to destroy the family, the religion, community, ethnic ties. They want to destroy the traditional culture, history, identity. Yeah. The left wants to rip apart every single piece of society. So the only thing that's left is power and the machine. Right. Does that make sense? That's my best summary of what the Unabomber said.
Yeah. Yes. Now should we critique him?
So the critique of the Unabomber. First of all, he was nuts. He killed a lot of people.
Well, I mean, he may have been driven nuts with that MK Ultra LSD treatment for weeks and weeks on end, where he's told he was a piece of shit while he was on acid. The MK Ultra program that he went through maybe had something to do with it. No, nothing. Ever heard of that? Did you even know that?
That has to be said. A lot of people would forget to say it as it's assumed, but I think it needs to be said.
He killed some people. Yeah. But, I mean, the military-industrial complex that he was involved, that he was putting his stuff against, that they kill a lot of people, too. So there's a lot of people being killed all over the place for crazy reasons. So he's not the only crazy one involved.
The second thing is the Unabomber didn't predict the internet, where I think the internet, and this is a Balaji point, I think this is a legitimately brilliant jump Balaji made, that the internet changes the calculation. One of Balaji's...
Yeah, for sure. The internet, they didn't think was going to be as what it turned into. Something like it was brewing, but it was all this proprietary shit. So the only reason the internet really kind of took off because it wasn't proprietary. Nobody owned it. It was a government thing. And once they said you could send credit card numbers over the lines in 1993 or 4 or 95, somewhere in there. I can't remember, because I remember when I was sending emails with credit card numbers, I knew it was wrong. But they hadn't allowed commercial stuff on it, and I wasn't being blocked or anything. Nobody was knocking on my door. I was so early in this shit.
Points is the 19th century society was held together by belief in God, the 20th century by the state, the 21st century by the network. And everything the Unabomber
it's the network now
says about industrial civilization gets co-opted by the internet, where the whole thing about complex systems and over-socialization and destroying the need to mass coordinate destroying human nature, the internet solves that, because the internet allows asynchronous communication very rapidly.
Well, cheaply. So we had the async stuff since telegraph until radio. It was World War I, World War II. We had async stuff, but it was super expensive. I know people don't remember. So I remember when I was a kid, a long-distance call to grandma in New York City, New York, where I was living in Maine. It was expensive, so we couldn't talk forever. It was just like, hi, how are you? How's the thing? Blah, blah, blah. 5 minutes, it was up, because it was like $5 or $6. It was like so expensive. It was like, what? So we had all the async stuff. It was just slow and expensive. So what really happened with the internet was it just made it cheap and plentiful and ubiquitous, and for various reasons. But it's atomized us and allowed some people to connect to people that you would normally never talk. You'd normally never ever talk to me. I am not out there. I haven't been for a long time. I'm just like keep to myself kind of. So you would never meet me, and that's been working for me for various reasons. I'm still social, but whatever. You're never going to see me. You're not going to meet me. But through this mechanism, you get to see into a peek into my brain, right? And that wasn't available first. Now, I'm totally anonymous to you. You don't know me. So there's that. It's a pseudo parasympathetic relationship. So there's that, right? So that part, we definitely have to have that come back somehow, because that is causing so many problems.
So you don't have to show up at your shift at the exact same time as all the other Walmart employees across the country, because the internet allows, hey, Donnie, you can start this shift at 9:30. James, you can have this shift at 11:30. Sure. So the internet completely changes the calculation of what the Unabomber says, and that's part.
Because the async stuff, but mostly because it's cheap.
Of the deal with the Industrial Revolution, that the Industrial Revolution, there's a new form of magic every generation that changes the rules. And it's actually pretty fun and terrifying that across the course of our lives, we have no idea what the new technology is going to do. And the Unabomber I think he also over-glorified the return to monkey. And I think his return to monkey scenario is completely ridiculous, because once you've opened Pandora's box with the Industrial Revolution, you can't go back, because the military advantages conveyed by industrialization are so vast.
Right. The militaries will keep the industrialization going. So that was what kicked it off anyway. Was once everybody realized, oh, we can kick the shit out of each other with this stuff. Let's do it. And that's the first thing we always do with technology, is try and control and try and use it to war with other people. We always do. That's the first thing we do with it. First thing we do with the technology is, can we fuck it or can we fight with it? That's how we're so monkeys, man. We're so monkeys. But yeah, we're not going to go back to pre-industrial at this point. It's too widespread. Too many people know about it. It's too easy to restart. So it would have to be some other reason why it falls over. But and we're going to keep this internet, like, oh, the internet just get turned off. Like, they'll never turn it off now. It gets to be impossible. If it went down, well, it's designed to go down, right? The thing is, the internet's actually never gone down. So pieces of it can go blank and go offline, but the whole thing itself can never actually go down again, ever. And it's been fully functional since the day it started and ramped up. It hasn't gone down the whole time because at least one node is going to be active. Oh, let me see, my computer's doing this. And every once in a while, I'm recording for some reason. My machine will just get totally taxed and CPU will go to 100% for a few seconds. I don't know what's going on with that thing. Anyway, let's keep going.
Europe industrialized. They were able to conquer the whole continent of Africa, which I think is 4 times Europe's size because they had such a big strategic advantage. I think the Europeans lost less than 4,000 people in the conquest of all of Africa. And so you can't return to monkey in the same way the Unabomber wants to. For those that don't know, return to monkey means default back onto a pre-industrial society. It's an internet meme. And people who are not in good mental health create mental polarities in their mind where if you're not in a good headspace, you'll say, this is good, this is bad, and they're opposites. But the reality is the world is often a very muddy and complex place. When I have to give advice to a friend who's in a hard place, I say, tell me exactly what you want, tell me what you don't want, and then we'll find some middle ground where we can develop something that negates the negative and adds up the positive. So that's my argument against the Unabomber.
Well, that's a good back and forth. Should we get into it?
Yes. So
all right, so I'll let you watch the rest of that. That's the kind of the piece I wanted to put in there. So during that process, after World War I, Edward Bernays, Freud's nephew, he developed this thing called this propaganda, which we call what do we call it now? We call it public. I can't remember. Public relations. That's the name they changed after World War II because it was associated with the Nazis. Because the Nazis took his stuff and did there. That's where they got his. So they took Edward Bernays stuff and they based their all the propaganda on his work. So let's listen to the Professor Michael Martin talk about propaganda and how it relates to software development and Agile and Scrum and all the things we hear about and all the marketing and all the buzz and every single wave that comes through the crypto and the blockchain and the AI and you have to do cloud computing and Web 2.0, all that words, all that marketing blitzable stuff, where we eventually find out it's just another thing, right? It's not amazing. Oh my God, it's the most amazing thing ever. No, it's really, really not. It's another tool. Here we go.
The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. How you doing, friends? Back here at Sophiology Central. What I just read for you are the opening 2 sentences from Edward Bernays' book, Propaganda. Published, by the way, in 1928, so almost 100 years ago. Let me read those 2 sentences again. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. I mean, it's pretty stunning, right? So I was asked several years ago to teach a course on writing or rhetoric or something. I had no idea what it was, so I made the course up, and I'm sure I got in trouble for it. And this is one of the books I decided to use because I thought young people in our society should know about how propaganda works. I mean, we always talk about propaganda, and we always think it's the other guy, right? The other guy, he's susceptible to propaganda, not me.
Or it's just war, or just governments, or just foreign governments, not our government. No. Our government would never stoop so low as to propagandize the American public. No, they would never do that. And corporations would never be involved with that. And maybe getting a few facts. We're just going to not really tell them everything, but we're just going to bend the truth a little. Our point of view pushed, another point of view totally not made possible or legal.
Let me just read a few passages from this amazing. No, Edward Bernays, if you don't know, I should, before I read these passages, was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. And he was the first person to use psychological theory in marketing products, but also in marketing politicians. And he thought that the most important role that propaganda, and he later changed that to public relations after the Nazis did a whole bit on made propaganda a bad word. And you can watch this in a docu-series by Adam Curtis called Century of the Self-Effect, which I think
you got to see that. You have to.
it's from almost 20 years ago, if not more. It's worth watching. You can find it free on the internet for sure.
It's on YouTube. Century of Self.
I'll read a few passages from here just so you can see what I'm talking about, because it's kind of stunning. Here's one. This is the next page. In theory, every citizen makes up his mind on public questions and matters of private conduct. In practice, if all men had to study for themselves the abstruse economic, political, and ethical data involved in every question, they would find it impossible to come to a conclusion without anything. Right? We have voluntarily agreed to let an invisible government sift the data and high spot the outstanding issues so that our field of choice shall be narrowed to practical proportions.
Right. So Agile. The whole promise of Agile, the Agile certification, the Agile people gave us 4 sentences, right? You can look what the 4 sentences is, but that's all Agile. That's all we got from the Agile stuff. Now, those guys started to write a bunch of stuff afterwards as people were like, what are you talking about? And with the Agile certifications, and the Agile Foundation, the Agile blah, 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 blah. And we had the Agile Scrum coaches. You could get a certified Scrum Agile coach, certified with license and certification, right? Because it's propaganda. It's propaganda. That's all those certifications, licenses, all those coaches and stuff. It's all propaganda. They have no proof any of that stuff works at all. They have no proof their planning, poker estimates, time estimates do anything at all. In fact, we're seeing that these projects and managed in these ways with these certifications and all stuff. They're late. They're delayed because people are not motivated with the correct incentives. That's why the answer to it is ADD. Now those people are not gonna listen. They're like, God, infection-driven level would never. My manager would never accept it. That's right. It's not for your manager. It's for the people who have already been down in these pits and into the Agile, fake Agile stuff, and will continue to be there. Whatever name they give new Agile, SAFE, SAFE, or whatever the hell they come up with next, it's still going to be the same stuff. It's still going to be the waterfall. Here's the ticket. Punch the thing. We do it. There's no master design. You're in there for 2 years to get the name on the resume, and you're out the door because it sucks. And then you'll go, I want to do my adventure-driven development. I want to go up the hill. And this is where the happiness is found, right? For those people that want to do that, that's who it's for. It's not for the managers. It's for entrepreneurs and for developers, and they can be the same person. They can do different people, and they see an entrance. They've heard of an entrance. They want to go look for the entrance. Maybe they found an entrance, and they want to dance with the dragon, man. They want to see if they can make their dream happen and make their thing come thing or whatever that is. Now, I'm thinking it's for software and business startup kind of stuff, but it could be it for anything. It has just the attitude.
Right. And he says, a little bit later, he says, to achieve this, society has consented to permit free competition to be organized by leadership and propaganda. And when I use this book for a course, the students were blown away because they were actually, I think I first did this probably 2022, maybe earlier 2021. And they were saying, Professor Martin, this is exactly what's happening right now. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. And it's been going on for a long time. This is the engineering of consent. This is 1928. Now think about 1928. What was available to us in 1928 as far as media goes? Newspapers, magazines, billboards. The movies just started. They were still silent. The radio was very young. So, but those were things. Now that was long before the internet, right?
It was expensive, so a lot of people didn't have radio yet. So the movies, billboards, newspapers. That was how people got it.
So the internet, I think, became a enormous tool for the engineering of consent, and we see that all the time. And we see that especially as people's opinions,
two-edged,
which turned out to be right, were squelched in the interest of being safe, which is also propaganda. Right. So it's kind of stunning when you think about what we let ourselves be submitted to.
What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do, Professor? Be aware of it. That's pretty good, so you don't get all sucked up. Oh my God! It's like, they're just doing their propaganda thing that they have to do for most people, because most people really need this. For some reason, they just need somebody to tell them. Maybe it's the atomization that we've all been through, this industrialization process. We need a big papa to solve it all, fix us all for us. It's crazy. This world's crazy.
Let me find another couple of choice quotes. Here's a good one. Now, a lot of people think literacy is a good thing, and you would think that an English professor would think literacy is a good thing. Well, here's the thing, boys and girls. I mean, just put it this way. It's a two-edged sword, right? And we'll talk about this in a little bit, but probably the most susceptible group to certain kinds of propaganda is actually the professoriate. I've seen, I mean, I've been in academia, or I was in academia for 25 years, and God, I hate it for a reason. And the reason I hate it is because I saw far less critical thinking in academia, institutions that pride themselves on critical thinking.
Right. So a lot of this stuff that we're thrown at us, these agile coaches and scrum stuff, we don't ever ask the question: do you have proof for any of this stuff? Do you have anything brings up like actual things that you can show that this actually proves that your stuff works and does that? It does what you. No, this is how it's done. This is how everybody does it. Oh, really? Oh, and you checked with everybody? Is that what you did? So these kind of questions, like, it would roll through my mind when I first became aware of the agile stuff after 2012, when this stuff started really. I became, I took a break from computers for a while and came back in 2012. This stuff was all prevalent. Everybody's like, "Oh, this is the amazing stuff." I was like, "Oh, really?" I got into it. I started asking questions. People got real uncomfortable, and I realized that if I wanted to keep working at this place, I'm gonna have to shut up and go along with it. Shut up. This is a good thing. Don't shut up. Because they didn't have anything else. They had nothing to compare it to, and they weren't even asking the questions because everyone was so desperate to try to figure out how to get these projects done in a reasonable period of time that meet the customers' requirements with talent we can find, people who we can find, and they owe you a new thing that makes it all simple and easy, 100%. Oh, okay.
Then I have seen in the working class people, out here in the country where I live. So one of my friends is a logger, another, mechanics, a lot of farmers I know. They all have much more common sense and much more useful critical thinking skills than just about any professor I've met. With very few exceptions in the professoriate. I hate to say it, but it's true. So I'm going to read this little snippet for you.
No wonder we're so screwed up. No wonder everybody that comes out of these computer science boot camps is like, why can't I get it? Why are people don't give a shit about my stuff? I've done all the projects, tutorial things. Like, how come I'm not getting noticed? Well, you're gonna have to dance with this guy at some point, or just get into the fake agile elite code.
This just flew by me on social media, actually from a school where I teach. In fact, where I taught that course. And this was posted on the wall, like in the hallway or whatever. There's probably a bunch of them. I'm gonna read this. This will blow your mind. Adrian College in Adrian, Michigan. Critical thinking is defined as a set of strategies by which students explicitly employ the principles and standards of thinking and intentionally use these principles and strategies in assessing and improving the quality and depth of their thinking. Okay, that's so far so good. Okay. But here's the next part. This is the kicker. They improving the quality and depth of their thinking within the context of sociology, criminal justice, and human services, to which any rational person can only respond, "What the absolute fuck?"
Yeah. So the good news is, if you're listening this far to this video, you're the ones that can probably see through all this bullshit, right? So yeah, you're maybe the kind of person that you can think about adventure-driven stuff, and there is a way out of the grind stuff. You still like doing computer stuff, and you can vibrate. You can start to find the guys and people that want to go along with you, the business person, the other technical person. However, the people that are, oh shit, that looks like something I want to get into, as opposed to, what's the salary for this Jira ticket burn down chart salary?
So there's no critical thinking going on in college campuses. And if you follow me on social media, or even I think on my Substack on the Druid Stairs Back, I often comment about that after 25 years of critical thinking as an institutional learning objective, I haven't seen any yet. And there it is, right? So it's again, this is the engineering of consent. And later in this book, actually. Right. Let's see if I can find it. Here's what he says about. He has a whole chapter on education. Let's start right there.
Here we
Propaganda for education. And one of the things he says: the normal school should provide for the training of the educator to make him realize that his is a twofold job: education as a teacher and education as a propagandist. And we've seen this over and over in the last few years, right? I mean, with you probably see it almost. I haven't seen it as often as I was, but there were all these school board meetings where parents would come complaining that the library or classes are actually teaching children how about oral sex or gender choice or whatever, right? Little kids too. I mean, in fact, actually, my a very good friend of mine had the couple had their children who were young, like kindergarten or pre-K, in a Waldorf school in Michigan. And they had those kinds of books in a Waldorf school, which is shocking because Waldorf used to be the place people would send their kids to protect their childhood. And they had a meeting with the teacher and said, this stuff keeps going. We're taking the kids out. And it did keep going. And they took the kids out, and to their great credit. Because the teachers' colleges they're just propaganda farms.
Yeah.
Education programs.
And so these Agile certification corporation, whatever groups, just propaganda. I there's such a pushback finally against this Agile crap, but there's also none of this. People aren't really talking about how to replace her or what it is that actually got us the stuff that we love to use. What actually makes that come about? How do we foster that?
Are propaganda farms, and people. Here's the thing, though: the brilliance of the way they do the propaganda is they make you think it's your idea. Right. So that's part of the way the consent is engineered, and the way it happens in higher education is those who go along get along, and and so people who buck against that system meet with a lot of resistance, which I have. Yeah. Which is why I got out. I can't stand being an accomplice to a crime anymore. And
Right, because they're all going in this thing. All the sales people, all the design stuff, all the Agile certification people, they all talk to all the managers. How do the managers want this to be sold to them, right? That was really what's going on here. It was a sales cycle, right? So there's a people in the sales cycle, and the people in charge of the corporations are the preservers. So I want things to be, we want defined. I want to know how long every little piece is going to take because of the industrial training that they all got, like they were supposed to be able to decog in the machine, time periods. Didn't you just program 6 lines last week? You should do 6 lines this week, the same amount, right? It's all just lines of code.
These kinds of crimes. It's actually, like John the Baptist, I was a voice crying in the wilderness, about the real need for critical thinking, which is why I brought this book into the classroom. And here goes the second reason. The second reason for the present remoteness of education from the thoughts and interests of the public is found in the mental attitude of the pedagogue, whether primary school teacher or college professor, toward the world outside the school. Right. This is a difficult psychological problem. The teacher finds himself in a world in which the emphasis is put on those objective goals, and those objective attainments are prized by our American society. So when he was writing, right, the engineering of consent was more, kind of the classic 1930s and 40s version of, kind of America first, or the saving democracy saving democracy was actually a phrase invented by Edward Bernays to promote the aims of what we can call the Anglo-American Empire, right? So those kinds of things. So those are
the guys that make all the war goods, the war equipment.
Kinds of things. It's kind of funny that the hippies were fighting against in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, so many of those hippies became the Barack Obamas and John Kerrys, who are even more down with the project to engineer consent than their forebears in the 50s and 60s. So yeah, so we're up against the people.
Yeah. So that same mindset, that same thing, everybody that was paying attention to what worked, they adopted all that stuff. So everything that we come in contact now with is tinged with that stuff. And even if Agile was a good idea, and a lot of stuff I really like I actually like the mindset of Agile, it wasn't tough enough. It wasn't dealing with, it wasn't prepared to deal with Agile certification, Scrum Master coach. They didn't see that coming. They said it was supposed to happen inside the team, not this big industry around it. But that's how it gets sold. Managers aren't going to go and listen to developers have 4 sentences and infer all the things. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to release my control, which I've been trained at Harvard in my MBA to not do. That's the wrong way to do it. And they didn't give us any hints. They didn't even mention this knowledge work stuff. They were not even part of it. And you expect them to come up with something new? No, this has to be like, look, this is not how this stuff is made. New stuff. Talk about new stuff. Maybe old stuff. You can want to do the Jira burn down chart. I just need to fix a few bugs. Man, that's work. That's good work. If you can get it, if that's good for you, right? But people that don't want that, right? I'm talking about the people that don't want to do that stuff, man. There's another way to do this work. And I've been in these environments, right? I've been in these environments a couple times. I kind of made it one of my own startup with this environment. I kept it intentionally small to do this thing because I didn't really have it all cooked in my mind. I just knew that the more people involved, the more you're going to potentially get this preserver type, right? Who's going to not really want to go along with the plan. He's going to not want to do what's necessary to really tame that dragon. Now I'm going to listen to do one more thing about the Steve Jobs, how he felt about the preserver type and the guys that were doing the dev agency consulting thing here, which is good money. It's good money, but you're doing little bugs. I call it little bugs. He calls thin slices. Okay, here we go.
I mean, most of you come from companies where you've had work experience, right? How many of you are from manufacturing companies? Oh, excellent. Where are the rest of you from? So how many from consulting? Oh, that's bad. You should do something. No, seriously, I don't think there's anything inherently evil in consulting. I think that without owning something over an extended period of time, like a few years, where one has a chance to take responsibility for one's recommendations, where one has to see one's recommendations through all action stages and accumulate scar tissue for the mistakes and pick oneself up off the ground and dust oneself off.
Yeah. What is he talking about? He's talking about fighting that dragon. It's the best ever. It's so much fun. If you can get in an environment where you're fighting that dragon, yeah, that's the stuff. And of course, the preserver types. It's just frightening. It's just so scary. It's like, are you crazy? That's for insane people to do. That's why it's these people who find whatever it is to be unacceptable and want to get to the outstanding. They're going to loop around each other. Creating is destruction, right? Destruction is creation, right? You're destroying an old way of doing something, and you're starting a new way. And that's what this is what he's talking about. He's talking about dancing with this thing, dealing with this dragon, which is all the things that customers want. To make them delighted and be happy and more than willing to. They got a good deal when they put their money on the table for whatever you're giving them.
One learns a fraction of what one can. You're coming in and making recommendations and not owning the results, not owning the implementation, I think is a fraction of the value and a fraction of the opportunity to learn and get better. And so what you do get a broad cut at companies, but it's very thin. It's like a picture of I'm a vegetarian, so when you steak, but it's like a picture of a banana. You might get a very accurate picture, but it's only two-dimensional. And without the experience of actually doing it, you never get three-dimensional. So you might have a lot of pictures on your walls. You can show it off to your friends. You can say, look, I've worked in bananas, I've worked in peaches, I've worked in grapes, but you never really taste it. And I think that's what I think.
You never really taste it.
You're also a variable expense, and in hard times, you find yourself.
Well, it depends on what your kind of consultancy, right? Dev agency, they may keep you on, but then they also may cut the project, and you have no idea when that may happen or may not happen unless you got money in the bank already, right? When you're dealing with the guys that are like, hey, give me the money. Once you're locked into the dragon, he's giving up the gold ore. You have to keep messing with it, right? You have to keep making, because he'll grow another arm or another leg. He'll start fighting you again. So, yeah. So that it's the attitude. It's not people are looking for a TikTok process with the adventure-driven development. They're looking for like A, B, C, D. You got to do A, B, C. It's not that. It's this. The journey is long and full of terror. Yet I inch forward. You just don't quit, man. More damn bugs. Like we don't mind doing the tasks. As long as it's getting us along to the path, right? Now, some people, you might get it. Some people, they just want to do the tech. I just want to do the tech. I don't want to do all this other stuff that you got to do with this, which is talking to customers, doing sales calls, maybe revamping some stuff. You don't want to do that. So that's just not going to be for you. So that's, this is adventure-driven development is not a drop-in replacement. I'm going to respond to some of the comments I've gotten already, and some of the requests, because there seems to be this thing like, I'm just going to show this to my manager. It's going to totally fix our process, our development process, and make all our developers love it again. No, it's not going to be it. That's not going to be it. Give me a like and subscribe. I'll talk to you later.